I'm Kylie Storr. This is my persuasive speech for public speaking. Violence, gore, and addiction. These are the words most commonly associated with video games and children. While the concern comes from a valid place, it is important to look at studies and the impact that these video games have on children to assess whether in the home or in school, those actually are negative on the development of our youth. As most younger generations would argue, not all games have heavy themes of violence, gore, or anything that would encourage a fair amount of negative impact on our children. When determining whether video games are right for each specific instance, it's important we consider a few different things: the age of the child, the games in question, and the settings being proposed, and how often the time is being spent on them. Banning games or heavily eliminating video games could actually impact how modern children and modern learning environments continue. You may not be a gamer yourself, but I think you could find a time in your life where you learned something from a video game, or from the internet, or a console, or a phone. As a person that has a lot of video games in my own household with my husband, I have personally seen the benefits of how this hobby can be a valuable inclusion on adults and in our children's lives. I would like to go through what kind of games can be beneficial and how we can apply them to our children's education and where gaming can take us with our children's future. So, who here, and I didn't establish this in the beginning, I have my two sisters, my husband, and our baby, who you can't see. I have my mother-in-law, I have my mom, and I have my dad. So, out of all of us, who's heard of Minecraft? You raise your hand. Okay, so all of us except for one, supposedly. No, that's not true. So, a popular game like Minecraft, or Super Mario, or Portal, which some of you may not have heard of, are a few examples of common household games that don't have the sole purpose of being educational, yet they're secretly teaching children every minute those children are playing. Minecraft, for example, helps kids with spatial recognition because you're in this open world platform. So you're constantly building, you're developing these big plans as far as building things. It helps with reading, with mathematics, with real world geography because you have things like biomes within the game. And so kids have been shown to research biomes and how those interact within the world and where they are, stuff like that. According to CNET, kids are more likely to research geography because of playing Minecraft. Super Mario games have allowed children to understand all subjects from art and music to history and mathematics from their Super Mario gaming platforms, education platforms, which are entirely separate, but they do have within their games that are in the household educational resources. They have bright, colorful, fast-paced gaming that allows learning to feel fun and feel not stressful, while also teaching kids. Portal games, they're a series that can be controversial because they do include guns, which is the main point when you're talking about guns and kids and the relation between that negative impact. But their bloodshed is not the sole focus of that game. It's actually, again, about spatial recognition and about physics and geometry and leading the players through a series of puzzles that helps them understand how science and mathematics work together. So now that we've learned how games can be beneficial in the home, let's explore how we can apply this to the classroom. A traditional classroom will have computers, laptops, smart boards, or other devices that aid learning. Among the newest and most controversial are gaming systems that are solely designed with the purpose of learning. In Kentucky, there's a high school that has introduced a flight simulator. And this is with the sole purpose of teaching kids to fly with flight hours that actually go towards their pilot's license. This is super important because it teaches kids that they can, in high school, use their education to further a degree or a career. So I will actually turn to a presentation aid for just a few seconds to show you how this works.
We are showcasing our brand new Redbird full motion flight simulator.
And this is just a high school in Kentucky. This is one of the first to do something like this.
Earn flight hours for their private pilot and instrument rating certifications as they fly in this.
our duty as educators to provide the schools and resources necessary for our students to achieve. This simulator represents the commitment to that. Our work is centered on providing the best for the students at Shawnee. Why? They deserve it. I am proud of them, and I'm happy that a Shawnee student can say they have their very own flight simulator inside their school building.
Okay, so with that brief video, we can see how a video game, or just something that feels similar to a video game, can actually be super beneficial to our children's future. So from what we've already started to uncover, and studies are very recent, we can see that gaming and education aren't opposing entities, but instead a tool to enjoy learning and feel like it's not in a traditional school atmosphere. So gaming certainly isn't the only way to teach our children, and it'll take time for parents and the school boards to understand it and come to terms with the fact that education is changing, and the way that our kids are taught is going to separate, and the way kids learn isn't all linear. But with more research and funding, schools can utilize this type of learning to benefit children in the future. Research has yet to find a correlation between violence and video games in the home, and has actually proven the opposite with statistics in certain video games being introduced into school places. While it may be hard to adjust to a society where video gaming is a regular part of the classroom and a part of the home, it is not inherently bad or necessary to a child's development. So you don't necessarily have to introduce it. It's also not something that you have to ban. It's just something that, technically speaking, it could benefit your child's future if you are willing to welcome it into your home. And that's my persuasive speech.
Yay!